10 lessons from Daniel 6 that will strengthen your faith in the most difficult moments. The room was filled with power, politics, and quiet jealousy. Daniel had done nothing wrong. Yet a trap had already been set for him. The decree was signed. The law could not be changed. The lions were waiting. And still, Daniel walked to the place of prayer as if heaven mattered more to him than survival. That is where this story begins. And that is why Daniel chapter 6 still speaks to anyone who is trying to remain faithful in the middle of fear. Full script. What if doing what is right suddenly put your life at risk? Would you stand firm? Or would you slowly give in to the pressure around you? Daniel chapter 6 brings us into a moment of deep tension, where faithfulness is tested in the harshest possible way. Daniel was not simply a wise man serving in a foreign kingdom. He was a man who remained faithful to God, even when that faithfulness carried the weight of a death sentence. He was surrounded by jealousy, marked by an unjust plot, and thrown into a den of lions. Yet his story reveals far more than a miraculous rescue. It reveals the strength of a life rooted in God. And even if you are not facing a literal den of lions today, you may still be facing pressure, difficult decisions, opposition, and moments where doing what is right feels costly. That is exactly why this message matters. In Daniel chapter 6, we find lessons that can strengthen your faith, guide your heart in difficult times, and renew your confidence in the God who never loses control. As you listen, pay attention to which lesson meets you where you are right now. Because sometimes one truth from Scripture is enough to carry us through an entire season. The first lesson is this: God positions you with purpose. Daniel did not rise to influence by accident, and he did not arrive there by talent alone. There was a greater hand guiding his life. He was placed in a position of responsibility and trust. In a system that did not reflect the values of God, yet that very place became the platform where God's faithfulness would be seen. Daniel's life reminds us that God does not only work in ideal conditions. He often places His people in difficult spaces, so His presence can be revealed there. Maybe you are in an environment that feels heavy, confusing, or spiritually dry. Maybe you are surrounded by pressure, misunderstanding, or people who do not share your convictions. That does not mean God has abandoned you. It may actually mean He has placed you there with intention. When you begin to understand that your work, your family, your responsibilities, and even your challenges can be part of a greater divine purpose, your perspective changes. You stop seeing your life as random, and you begin to see it as directed. God has positioned you where you are, so that through your life, He may be glorified. The second lesson is that the difference begins within. Daniel stood out above others because an excellent spirit was found in him. His distinction did not come from self-promotion, outward performance, or a hunger for recognition. It came from something deeper. It came from a life shaped in the presence of God. Daniel teaches us that true excellence starts in the hidden place. It begins in the heart, in character, in the thoughts we entertain, in the motives we carry, and in the quiet decisions no one else sees. In a world where many chase visibility and status, Daniel remained grounded, upright, and inwardly aligned with God. That is why he stood apart. God honors that kind of life. When the inner world is healthy, the outer life begins to reflect it naturally. What God forms inside of you will eventually become visible around you. The world often rewards appearances, but God works first on the soul. An excellent spirit is not created in a moment. It is cultivated daily, in silence, in surrender, and in closeness to God. The third lesson is that not every advancement will be celebrated. Daniel's growth stirred up resistance. His faithfulness and integrity exposed the compromise of those around him. And instead of honoring him, they began searching for a reason to destroy him. They looked for weakness, for failure, for corruption, but they found none. That is an important truth. Sometimes opposition does not come because you have done wrong. Sometimes it comes because you have remained steady in doing what is right. Not everyone will rejoice when you grow. Not everyone will be comfortable. When your life reflects consistency, character, and truth. Daniel was targeted not because he had fallen, but because he had remained faithful. That is why you must never lower your values just to gain acceptance. God's approval is greater than human applause. When you stand firm under pressure, your life becomes a testimony. And in the end, it is not the opinion of people that determines your destiny. It is your faithfulness before God. The fourth lesson is this: your faith may become a target. When Daniel's enemies could not find fault in his work, they decided to strike at the very thing that made him different. They went after his relationship with God. His faith was not hidden away in private words only. It was visible in his choices, his habits, and the priorities of his life. Because it was visible, it became a target. That still happens today. There are times when your faith may be questioned, mocked, challenged, or quietly pressured. But that does not mean your faith is weak. It may actually mean your faith is real. Daniel did not compromise his devotion just to stay safe. He knew the cost, and he remained faithful anyway. Following God will not always be comfortable, but it will always be right. When your faith is genuine, it becomes difficult to hide. And sometimes what shines with conviction will disturb those who live without it. Even so, remain firm. God honors those who refuse to let go of Him. The fifth lesson is that not every decision is just. King Darius signed the decree, but his decision was shaped by manipulation rather than truth. Even a ruler with authority could be influenced by the agendas of others. That teaches us something sobering. Human systems are flawed. Not every official decision is righteous. Not every law, policy, or judgment reflects the heart of justice. There may be times in your life when what is right seems to lose, and what is unfair appears to win. That can be painful and deeply discouraging. But Daniel's story reminds us that our peace cannot depend on human systems alone. Our trust must be anchored in the God who sees everything clearly and judges with truth. He is not confused by appearances. He is not deceived by manipulation. Even when circumstances seem to favor injustice, God remains sovereign. His justice may not always move on our timetable, but it never fails. The sixth lesson is that consistency reveals maturity. When Daniel learned that the decree had been signed, he did not panic, hide, or negotiate away his spiritual life. He went home, opened his windows toward Jerusalem, knelt down, and prayed as he had always done. That moment reveals one of the deepest strengths in Daniel's life. He did not create a relationship with God in the middle of crisis. He had already built one long before the crisis came. This is what spiritual maturity looks like. It is not found in occasional emotional moments. It is found in consistency. Those who stay faithful in hidden places are the ones who remain steady when the pressure rises. Daniel did not need a new faith for the lion's den. He simply continued in the same daily devotion that had sustained him for years. Many people change under pressure, but those who have developed deep roots in God remain grounded. Daily faithfulness forms a stable heart. What you practice in private becomes the strength you stand on in public. The seventh lesson is that your actions speak for you. Daniel did not need to make loud declarations to prove that he belonged to God. His enemies already knew where to find him. They knew he would be praying. They knew his habits. They knew his life matched his beliefs. That is powerful. The strongest testimony is not always spoken. Often, it is lived. We live in a world full of words, but God is looking for integrity. Daniel's life made his faith visible without performance. He was not praying to impress anyone. He was simply living out a real relationship with God. In the same way, our choices, patterns, reactions, and priorities reveal what truly lives inside us. People may question your words, but they cannot easily ignore a consistent life. Over time, authenticity becomes its own witness. A life aligned with God speaks with quiet strength. The eighth lesson is that God can use any situation. The lion's den looked like the end of Daniel's story. It looked like defeat. It looked like the triumph of envy, conspiracy, and injustice. But it became the very place where God would reveal His power in a way no one could ignore. even before the miracle happened. The king himself acknowledged Daniel's God. That means Daniel's witness had already reached beyond his own private life. His faithfulness had touched places of authority. This is one of the most encouraging truths in the whole chapter. God can take even the darkest situation and turn it into a setting for His glory. What looks like destruction may actually become the place where heaven speaks most clearly. There are moments when we do not understand why certain trials are allowed, but God sees farther than we do. He can turn crisis into testimony. He can turn pressure into revelation. He can take what was meant for harm and use it for something greater than we imagined. The ninth lesson is that God works beyond the natural. Daniel was not preserved because the circumstances suddenly became favorable. He was preserved because God intervened in a place where, humanly speaking, there was no escape. The Lord acted supernaturally. The mouths of the lions were shut. That is the kind of power that belongs to God alone. This teaches us that God is not limited by the boundaries that limit us. He is not restricted by what seems logical, probable, or possible. When He chooses to act, nothing can stand in His way. Daniel remained faithful, and God answered in a way that no human being could have produced. That truth still strengthens the heart today. There are situations where no obvious solution appears. There are moments when reason runs out, and all visible hope seems to disappear. But even then, God has the final word. His power is real. His timing is perfect. And His intervention can transform what looked impossible into a testimony of His faithfulness. The 10th lesson is that the ending belongs to God. Daniel's story did not end in the lion's den. It ended in honor, stability, and prosperity under the reign of Darius and Cyrus. That is a powerful reminder for every person walking through a painful process. The middle of the story is not the end of the story. Pressure is not the conclusion. Injustice is not the last sentence. Fear is not the final chapter. God writes complete stories. He does not stop at the moment of pain. He leads His people through difficulty with purpose. And in His hands, the ending is never determined by the threat of the moment. Daniel's life shows us that the process may be painful, but it is never outside of God's control. If you remain faithful in the middle, God will take care of the ending. He finishes what He begins, and He finishes better than circumstances ever could. Daniel chapter 6 teaches us something deeply important. Living with God does not mean we avoid difficulty. It means we walk through difficulty with His presence. Daniel was not kept from the den, but he was not abandoned inside it. That is where the beauty of this chapter shines. God did not remove every trial, but He remained present in the trial, guarding, preserving, and turning that moment into a testimony that still strengthens people generations later. The same is true for you today. Maybe you are facing a difficult season, a painful decision, or a situation that seems impossible to overcome. Maybe you feel surrounded by pressure, misunderstood by people, or trapped by circumstances you did not choose. But God is still in control. He sees everything. He knows your heart. He understands the part of your story that no one else fully sees, and He still acts at the right time. So remain faithful. Keep praying. Keep trusting. Do not let fear decide your path. Do not let pressure rewrite your convictions. The same God who shut the mouths of the lions is still able to guard, strengthen, and sustain those who place their full trust in Him. If this message spoke to your heart, carry these lessons with you and return to them whenever life feels heavy. Daniel's story is more than a memory from the past. It is a reminder for today that God is present, God is powerful, and God is faithful to those who remain faithful to Him. And if you want to keep building a deeper, steadier faith for difficult seasons, stay with Golden Seeds, because there is so much more to uncover together. There is another message waiting for you that will strengthen your heart even further. And I believe it may meet you exactly where you are right now.